My name is Alessandro and I work for an Italian coffee house here in Milan. I am a member of a union, Ficam CGL, and I know that unions are an important part of the Italian coffee house experience. I have heard that Howard Schultz tried to model Starbucks after the Italian coffee house. I have also heard that Howard Schultz is retaliating against US workers who are trying to unionize and defend their rights. I feel so sad and so bad that Howard Schultz is trying to bust the union in the US, because this is not how we do things here in the Italian coffee shop. Howard Schultz and Starbucks, it's time to respect your workers' right to form a union.
Here, I totally agree. It is time to respect the unionization of your employees, but unfortunately, until the courts get on board in terms of backing the laws that should protect these employees, we're not necessarily gonna see these companies do what they should be doing. And we saw a legal opinion come down last week that seemed to be absolutely wonderful for Starbucks employees. Early last week, a Michigan federal judge had banned Starbucks from firing any US worker seeking to unionize. That's huge. That was a big win and a big break. But unfortunately, it seemed to be short-lived. But a few days later, the judge, Mark A. Goldsmith, announced that he had made certain unspecified errors and withdrew his earlier injunction. On Thursday, Judge Goldsmith issued a new injunction, only this time it was limited to a store in Michigan, where a worker said she had been fired for her involvement in union organizing. The injunction's national scope had vanished. Absolutely, it was right there within Starbucks employees' grasp, and it was snatched back by that judge. And in the revised opinion that accompanied the new order that came down on Thursday, well, Judge Goldsmith said that the key criterion for determining whether to impose a national injunction was whether the company had pursued a general policy of violating labor laws. And he said that while the National Labor Relations Board had filed about 24 complaints involving roughly 50 workers fired by Starbucks across the country, many of those cases were in their early stages. So simply because those cases hadn't moved forward far enough, the judge did not want to go ahead and slap an injunction on Starbucks to prevent it from firing anybody who wanted to engage in unionized activity, which seems to be what the law is supposed to be anyways, but you know how it is. Well, as a result, Judge Goldsmith concluded that the evidence supported only that injunction in that Ann Arbor, Michigan store. And that ruling, well, it changed a lot. It had a big impact. Legal experts say that the original injunction would have allowed the labor board to seek expedited reinstatement of workers who had been fired at any of the roughly 9,000 corporate-owned Starbucks stores in the country. And that it could have led to fines if the court found that Starbucks was continuing to fire workers for union organizing. Now, while Starbucks, of course, was pleased with the court flipping and flopping on the initial ruling, well, now with this curbed ruling, Workers United, well, they said they're just going to keep up their energy. We will continue to fight for a national remedy to address Starbucks' unprecedented union busting campaign and hold the company accountable for their actions. Yes, accountability is incredibly important. And we definitely need to have that whole judicial branch also on board to holding Starbucks and also very large companies accountable when they engage in union busting activity. Rayyvana.
Yeah, we've seen Starbucks retaliate against unionization efforts and fire employees who are leading the efforts in their chains to form a union, essentially with impunity. They've been firing these employees, and that original ruling, the more hardy ruling, would have actually, it would have been a firm ruling. It would have been something at least to incentivize Starbucks to cease its union busting activities to some extent, and it would have given the employees who were retaliated against the ability to get their jobs back. And now this more reserved, ruling, the scaling back of the ruling, it's really just sort of a slap on the wrist in this one case. It's not going to have a major impact, but it's important that the More Perfect Union and the Starbucks employees are going to continue the fight. I'll also say I like that we highlighted the video of the Italian coffee house workers, because a lot of times we'll discuss the disparities between the income of service workers in Europe versus service workers in the United States. And the primary factor that they have better jobs, better benefits, better working conditions is because of the unionization rate of workers in Europe. We can just look at McDonald's. They make $23 an hour is the bare minimum that they make in, I believe it's Denmark. And that's not because they have a high minimum wage there. It's because they have unions, and the unions have fought to get the workers those benefits. So unionization is really the best way to represent the workers' interests. So it's important that this fight continues.
Absolutely. We see so many nations across the globe where they have such strong union power and presence that they get to uphold that right to live at wages that'll actually sustain an actual living. Yet here in the United States, it's really our culture and our push for individuality, individualism, that makes us so inclined not to see the value of coming together as one source and fighting for the collective good. It's really unfortunate, to be honest, because we have all the tools necessary to improve our lifestyles, our living conditions, and opportunities for a better tomorrow. But at the same time, when we're still holding on to this mentality of I as opposed to we, that's when we all lose.